You don't need to. Do you need to? How we doing? Thank you. All right. I wasn't going to start until at least I got that. How we doing? What do we got? We got our last week of practice coming up this week. Big week for us, because you're kind of done with installation. A lot of different things to get cleaned up. We'll have a situational day, more of a, where we're practicing specific situations. We're going to have a game, a more like kind of play the game situation day, and then Friday be a no helmets practice where you're really going through all the things of teaching guys what they need to do over the summer when we're not with them. And then obviously the spring game on Saturday, and big game for the big week for the program. I know Tuesday's practice we have our first responders and city officials, and an open practice for all of them to come, and all our law enforcement, all the first responders and city officials to come around, be around the team, and give them the opportunity to bring their families out to thank them for the work they do, the sacrifices they make, and as well as because they are part of the team and part of the program, putting on game days and putting on the spring game this weekend. And then obviously we want to try to pack the swamp next Saturday for the spring game, and hopefully have a beautiful sunny day, and we play some decent football or something. The spring game will be. Have we officially announced the head coaches yet, or no? When are we doing that? Later this week, we'll have some guest head coaches that we'll officially announce in the spring game. We'll split we're split the team in two. We'll have a draft on Friday. They'll be drafting the teams up and the coaches up on Friday, and I've always done it that way. It's not like kind of the ones against the rest of the team or some other things. We'll find a way to have a game, and we'll have two different teams going at it. So it should be a fun weekend.
Who calls the plays in that scenario?
The coaches on the teams. So the head coaches, they'll be guest head coaches, and they're going to have an opportunity. They could say run, pass, play action. They could play blitz or play base defense or one of those deals. And then the specific plays will be called how we split the coaches up on their. Each coach will call the plays for their own team, offensively and defensively. It's great we have those guys in. Everybody realizes I should have you all come. Maybe one day we'll do you guys in it, and you get to realize how fast when they blow that whistle, a play ends, of how fast those 25 or 40 seconds actually go. And like fourth and 2 from the 37. What are we doing? Ooh, that goes really fast to make those calls. So, but it'll be fun.
And what was your evaluation of the scrimmage?
It was good.
How good?
Pretty good. I'm just messing with you. Everybody got nervous there for a second. No, I there was some improvement on certain things I saw. I thought we played better football as a whole in certain things on Saturday within each individual play. I think we really need to improve on understanding game situations and how to how to play out the scrimmage. When offense, you have an advantage. We start a drive with great field position. Those are the ones you have to capitalize, right? Defense, if you got them pinned up and defense has the advantage, those are where you got to capitalize. And kind of how the whole thing plays together with both sides of the ball. So of guys doing that. But I thought on individual plays, if you watch it play by play and not, you put a play on and say grade the play, I think we played better football. But guys really got to understand game situations, and that just, there's a lot going on, and there's a short period of time we're trying to get a lot done. Whether it is, what technique we want you to play, what the scheme is, and how to execute the scheme, what checks to make, how to manage certain game situations, and just go as hard as you can every play, and when you start, there's a lot of that going on, and not just with some guys, with everybody. This time next year, there'll be a lot of guys understand it, and there'll be some new guys that are trying to get that done. Now you have an entire team of guys all together trying to figure that out.
How did the quarterbacks do, and has there been any separation at the position so far?
No, Not for me. I don't haven't paid attention to separation. You know what I mean? Watching all the guys. I'm really worried about how we're getting better. You know, I mean, one of the things for me, and especially with where we are with a new roster to me, you know, with everybody kind of starting over, is it's a long time before we have to make any decisions or play a game. So I'm not that concerned about that right now. Unless I need to see something, you know, whether it's in a leadership role or something else, not just a quarterback, but other positions that guys are battling for playing time. But I thought there were some things I saw with them that they improved on. There were some mistakes that they still made that I was disappointed with. You know, they handled some. You know, that's where it gets to with the reps. You know, the quarterbacks, they handled some hard situations very well, and then all of a sudden they got like the easiest situation you could be in, and you know you get a 3rd down and 12, and you know if you're playing us, sometimes it's coming from every different direction, and you know so they started getting used to handling all these different exotic blitzes coming at them, and all of a sudden a base defense is out there and everybody kind of like freaked out because it was a base defense. I'm like, come on, that's back to day one, you know, of you can't miss those opportunities. So, but overall, I thought they managed the game better than the week before.
Felipe in particular, I mean, kind of a rough first scrimmage, turnover-wise at least, and accuracy-wise. How did he improve?
He did good. He threw a couple touchdown passes. You know, I still think we gotta complete a higher percentage of passes, but that's not as always accuracy sometimes as it is decision making as well for all the quarterbacks of, you know, when do you want to take your shots down the field? When do you want to just get the ball out of your hands? When you see certain looks, what's the easiest throw you can make? You know, what the educated things. You know, hey, on 1st and 10, when do I want to take the shot, or when do I want to just check it out and go play the next play? When do I want to try to scramble around and improvise and make something great happen? And when is it time to just throw it away and we'll figure it out later on the next play? And like I said, I thought Felipe was a lot better at that. You know, I think number-wise, Felipe had the best numbers at the quarterback position. I don't know what they are, because those are always an argument. He was sacked. He would have been tackled. He would have, you know, not. And that's, you know, when you go into the scrimmage right there, the defensive and offensive stats don't match up. You know, where the offensive coaches put their stats down and the defensive coaches put their stats down. They're like, well, you didn't call it, but that would have been a sack, or this would have been that. So, but they, I thought like I said, I thought they've improved on some things, and there's other things. Just the overall, you take the offense. So the key is what you want them to do is have the offense and know how to use the offense, right? I mean, it's like, hey, if you got a sports car. If I hand you a Lamborghini, it doesn't mean you have to drive 150 miles an hour every second of every day. There's times that maybe you want to open it up a little bit. You know, there's other times where I got to stop at a stop sign and follow the speed limit. And they got to learn when those opportunities are and how to take advantage of them.
How's Emory Jones just kind of grown during this spring?
Well, I think he's working and learning how to be a college player. You know, I think one of the things as a young quarterback, if you're going to put him in a situation to be successful, well, the easiest thing for young quarterbacks to do is run the football. And that's something we try to take away from them a little bit in the learning process, so you have to go push yourself and learn how to do other things. So, you know, and he understands that. I mean, I think he's worked at it for us. And so I think he's grown. I think he's improved. And, I mean, we've been patient with the situations we put him in and try to, you know, let him learn and build confidence in what we're doing.
There was reports of Felipe having a bunch of rushing touchdowns. Have you used him a lot in that way, and how has he adapted to that part of the game?
No. Well, again, that's where the reports, right? Because if you talk to the defense, there was 0. If you talk to the offense, there could have been 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns, and mark him down. But most of those were scrambles, you know, of him improvising within the play and making a good decision with the blitz lane opening up and taking off more than quarterback. I try not to call really any quarterback runs per se. Now, I mean, you might get it on a zone read or an option play where you keep it, but I didn't. There were maybe a couple of quarterback runs we called in different situations that the questions are, would that have broke for a long touchdown or not? And we just end up blowing a guy gets near him, we blow the whistle and mark him down. So, yeah, we'll see. I thought he did make some nice runs scrambling and improvising with plays.
And then the offensive line, how far does that group have to go before the first game?
Well, you got a ways, but you're also, to me, is anytime you look when you're scrimmaging and when you're practicing, we're going 3 deep, and a lot of times 1s, 2s, and 3s are getting equal reps. In the fall, you're going to add 4 more offensive linemen that aren't currently playing within that group, which then adds the depth, and because it can water down in a hurry. And so what you have to do is by that time is you want to find 8 guys that can play. Right now you're rolling 15, and you want to make sure you have 8. So I think when you get into a game, we still have a lot. I see some positives, see some other, at times you see some negatives at other times. And the key is realizing and saying, hey, okay, we're going to hopefully be able to, in game situations, you're going to roll 8. So instead of needing 6 tackles, you need 3. Instead of needing 6 guards, you need 3. Instead of needing 3 centers, you need 2. And so I think when you take that out, you're maybe even you end up being more ahead than you thought you were. But within development of how we run the program, it doesn't always show up that way.
Where specifically have you seen the most improvement in these few weeks of practices heading into the spring game?
I think I thought the attitude was really good on Saturday. The approach to the scrimmage. I thought the first scrimmage to the second scrimmage, I thought they maybe, and probably because they knew what more to expect, having been through it. But I thought really guys were constantly focused on the next play. Well, the big thing to me was not worried about the scrimmage as a whole. Let's worry about going the next play as hard as we can. What's the situation? Don't worry about what happened the play before. Where the week before it was, he should be down. Oh, this should happen. Guys worried about things that aren't important. Worried about winning the scrimmage instead of worrying about going as hard as you can on the next play. And so I thought we improved that way. Like I said, I think our attitude of our team's good. I think our efforts have been good. I think they're learning. To me, that the biggest thing we need to get out of them this week is the effort. Is not that they're not giving effort, is them understanding how much effort they can give. You know what I mean? Our guys are they're going hard. I don't know how much they're straining. There's a big difference, I think, between going hard and straining, and between guys thinking they're going hard, and I mean that absolute strain to give everything that you possibly have. So if we can learn to do that better this week, I would say it's been pretty successful spring for us overall. The scheme will come, and a lot of that's us. We're throwing a lot of different random things in. Maybe not everything ties together with the scheme right now because we're trying to create, instead of putting in 15 plays out of this package, we're going to put 2 or 3 from this, 2 or 3 from that, but we're going to get to see what guys can do. So as now we come back to it as coaches and say, okay, this is what our guys can do. This is what they handle. This is where we're pretty good. Now let's build around their strengths and put the package together both offensively and defensively so that we're putting guys in the best position to be successful instead of trying to teach them everything. We've picked and chosen, and then we'll be able to put the package together after spring that way on their abilities.
Coach, a couple of guys that seemed, in our eyes anyway, my eyes, to be playing with the first group maybe or getting more playing time. Nick Buchanan on offense and Ventrell Miller on defense. Can you talk about those two? Yeah,
they're coming along. I think, right now with the center position, we're trying to see guys are getting opportunities to go play with the 1s and play with the 2s. I think Ventrell had a nice interception, a really nice play on an interception. So made some good plays, made some other mistakes. But, I try to keep into consideration he's a guy that didn't play last year as a young guy and so sat out a year. So he's still kind of getting used to being back in football. But like I said, well, one of the things, the biggest one is I want to create, especially defensively, is depth. I want to play a lot of guys if we can, and roll guys through and be a defense that's going to attack you for 4 quarters with fresh bodies coming at you, in waves. And so, as those guys come, the more guys we have that can play and that earn playing time, the fresher you're going to be, not just in an individual game, but throughout the season. That's huge. So, I'd be great. I talk about the O-line needing 8 with a guy, you take a Nick Buchanan. If we can get to 10, I'm great if we can get to 10. It's that you feel comfortable with, So it'll be interesting to see who our best linemen are. Who the top 5 are, then who the top 8 are, and then who the top 10 are, and see where our rotation ends with those guys.
One of the big things coming out of the first scrimmage with some of the defensive coaches we talked to was kind of the gap control, maintaining integrity up front. How has that developed, and then how hard is that for especially those young guys to get?
You know what? It's the young guys learning the technique, learning the scheme, and then learning the strain. You know what I mean? It's you got to be in a B gap, and we're putting over 600 pounds double in you, right? You got 2 choices. You can, just pop a vein in your neck, straining so hard to not get moved out of that B gap, or you can kind of get knocked out of it. In that situation. Then there's a situation where you're taking on a one-on-one block, and all of a sudden it's reaching, it's moving fast, and you're working on technique, and you end up out of position. How do you finish to get back into it? So I thought at times we were better with it, and one of the tricky ones too is you're still installing. We were still installing through last week, so the great thing about it moving forward, this week, there's guys still kind of picking things up. Our biggest adjustment to me is going to be our recollection. For us to be successful, when we show back up in August, we have to look like we did on Thursday. The spring game's its own entity, but our first practice in August needs to look like the next practice after Thursday's practice. Because of the window that we have. There can't be that drop-off in the summer. So all the work that our guys are going to have to put in this summer is going to be critical to our success. Because all the steps we've taken forward, we can't take any steps back just in the time frame that we have before we'd have to play with, them shortening training camp this year. So that's not in our control. And, I love if it was back to kind of where it was last year for the health of the players, but they really kind of crunched it all in there, and I don't know if it's really healthy for the players, but that's just the rules we have to live by.
What kind of potential do you see in TJ Slayton?
He's very, very talented, potentially wise. When he decides to go, and do it right and put the effort and the focus and attention to detail and the strain in, has the opportunity to be an excellent player. When he doesn't, he's just a guy, an average player. So, as a young player, I think that's one of the things that guys have to learn is, one of the things and I share with all these guys is most of these guys were the best player on their high school team. Most of them were great high school football players, and the majority of them really could physically dominate the high school level without putting in all the extra work. Doesn't work when you get here. Everyone's big, everyone's strong, everyone's fast, everyone's was the best football player on their team. So you have got to have unbelievable attention to detail, not just making sure you're schematically doing what you're supposed to do in the right spot, okay, with unbelievable effort and strain to get to where you need to be, and with proper technique. And especially some of the bigger guys, that's the learning curve with them, because they physically could dominate people at the high school level, and that's not going to work here. You have to do it the right way with the right effort, or you're not going to look good all the time. So he's 50-50 guy. 50% of the time he looks fantastic. 50% of the time he looks terrible. To be honest with you, but that happens with young players, So what it shows you is he can do it, We just have to do it every single snap. It's not those 50% that he looks great are not anything. He's not doing anything that he couldn't do every play.
Another one, please. You put a lot of effort and energy into drumming up interest in this spring game among students and just the fan base in general. You've worked very hard re-energizing it. What's just been your thinking there? And
Well, I think a lot. I think, there's a process for us to get the program exactly where we need it to be, which is, to me, is a championship level program. And, there's just like anything, I go back, whether I was running go back to running the Boston Marathon a couple of years ago. And, you go out on a training run on your own on a Sunday and you put some water bottles around town and, you got some music playing in your ear because you got, 3 hours to go on a 20-mile run of you. And I tried not to even think about things, right, during the week, so I could have a lot to think about when I go on this 3-mile run by myself. Then you go run the race. I mean, you don't need any. I mean, I was at way faster pace because you got 500,000 people going crazy, and it's like just how hard you go. Well, the same thing happens in football. I mean, if we have a packed stadium, if our students, it really starts with the student body creating the energy and the excitement, but our fan base, if you have all these people out there as a player, you're going to play harder. And so that's a huge part that's going to lift up the team is the energy. You feel the energy from the stadium around you to lift up your level of play. And, I mean, it's easier to go harder. I mean, you just naturally you go faster. Even when you go run on this long race, sometimes you got to pay attention. I'm going too fast because you're so hyped with the energy and the excitement around you. So I think that's a huge part about it with the guys on the team. And secondly is, we're going to try to have all the, whether it's this coming weekend or it's weekends every weekend in the fall, we're going to have some of the best players in America coming to visit and see what game day's like in the Swamp. And then they're going to leave and they're going to go to other top programs and compare the two. And we want to make sure when they walk out of here, whether it's our spring game or, whoever it is we're playing any single game week, you walk into the Swamp, it's the most electric atmosphere in college football. And these young players say, that's where I want to be. That's the environment I want to play in. That's the team I want to play for. You can be a smarter coach, right? I mean, I was a really good quarterback coach. When you walk in the room and you look and there's Tim Tebow and next to him is Cam Newton and next to him was Johnny Brantley. I mean, I was a pretty good quarterback coach then. I mean, hey, you knock one guy out, guess who's coming next? I mean, that's a rough deal. And we want to get all the top prospects here and get them excited to have, put Florida back where that's what our rooms look like in the competition at practice is unbelievable.
I think Urban's first spring game I was here for was like, Robbie reminded me, 58 maybe.
Was it?
Yeah, you look.
So we need more than that?
That's my question.
What's the most we've ever had? 60? We want a lot more than that. So that's up. Hey, we'll be there. We'll be going hard. We'll be giving relentless effort. Question is who else in the Gator Nation is going to be giving relentless effort on Saturday? That's their challenge.
How did you guys make it out injury-wise from the second scrimmage?
Good. Brunson's got a banged-up shoulder that he could finish spring, or not. I'm going to see how that goes. We're going to get an MRI done it, but everybody else we expect to be going. And could. It's just going to be ours is going to be if he either get an MRI if he needs something work done. When it is and how does that affect moving forward and where the calendar basically you just look at the calendar of where we need him, what he needs to train for and work back to. You want to try to if he does have to have surgery, is it this week, next week, and where that puts him going forward. But everybody else should be good to go.
Just kind of building off that, is there anyone won't play in the scrimmage?
On Saturday?
Yeah.
Probably not.
The spring game, yes, sir.
Maybe down the road in the future, there might be some guys I protect a little bit more, but I don't know that in our system there's guys that have played enough to say, hey, we're not going to put you in that game. So I'd imagine everybody right now is going to play on Saturday.
And Darius is one of the guys that got banged up.
But he had a mild ankle sprain, so I don't expect him to be out.
Thanks, Dan.
Good. Thank you.
Appreciate it.